taking a look at detailed game breakdowns of the 4AA West and 4A West first round playoff games coming up on Friday night. Alright, so first game we're going to look at is Davie County coming down to take on Porter Ridge. We looked at a little bit of the scouting report, had some nice discussion in the chat, excuse me, not the chat, the forums on CarolinaVarsity.com and the 4A forums. Main thing we want to look at here is the offenses and defenses and how they match up with some of the key players. For Davie County, offensively, the quarterback Halls, a senior, is throwing for 1,506 yards on the year. It's average 136 yards a game. Throwing the ball, rushing the ball, they've got a total of 974 that's reported on max preps on here on 350 carries. So that's 2.8 yards a carry and 136 passing. You know, when you look at the attempts, they've thrown it 242 times, rushed it for 350. So that tells you they're a run first team. But you know, that's not too bad in terms of balance. Most of the time you want to run the ball more than you throw it, unless you got some real talent that can sling it around. So yeah, it's pretty balanced overall. The top receiving threats, Wilson, a senior, number 14. He's got 30 catches for 600 yards and 4 touchdowns. They also have Wall, that's a senior, 26 catches for 429 and 4 touchdowns. So that's pretty close. It's pretty balanced between those two receivers on the outside. You know, when you look at them offensively, we took a look at some film. You know, they're not too fancy with what they do. You know, the numbers say, you know, they run it a lot, but their average is not that high. So if you're Porter Ridge, of course, most teams you want to come in, you want to look at stopping the run first to make a team one-dimensional. And then when they're throwing the ball to those two threats, you know, you really want to, you know, try to clamp down on those guys and make them go to someone else that can try to beat you. When you're putting together a defensive game plan, that's what you're really looking at trying to do there. But as far as the threats go, running the ball, Robinson is their leading rusher, number 7. He's a sophomore. 4.6 yards a carry. That's the best average on the team. Then they've got a couple other guys. Hampton, a junior, has rushed for 327. But he's got about the same amount of attempts as Robinson. And then the quarterback is not a dual threat guy. Hadn't rushed for really any yards this year. So those are your running threats there. Defensively, we've looked at the linebacker. We actually featured him in the mid-season players to kind of get noticed that have kind of gone under the radar. And that's Hendricks, and these numbers are crazy. He's got 100 per max preps, 111 solo tackles, 63 assists, a total of 174 tackles, 18 tackles for loss. I mean, that's what you want out of your middle linebacker. And you know, he's able to make these plays because they got a big nose guard. We saw him on film, and I believe that's number 78 Wilson here. Not a lot of stats, but when you got a big nose guard that commands double teams, you can have linebackers that have that kind of stats for Davie County. They don't get to the quarterback much, only 10 sacks on the year. Interception-wise, they got a DB by the name of Barnett, senior, that's got 5 picks on the year that leads the team. Wilson, we talked about on offense, also has 3 picks, so he plays both ways. They've got 1 punt return listed for 52 yards. Maybe that was a touchdown. But, you know, overall, they're 5-5 on the year. You know, their coach is now at West Caldwell, so this is the first-year coach at this program. They've got history with Porter Ridge. Had some talk on the site that some people remembered the game a few years ago. Davie came down to Porter Ridge, beat them on their way to the state title game. This is not the same Davie team. That Davie team back then was huge. I mean, just big all over the place. These guys aren't as big, but they do have some talent, so you do have to take them seriously. Conversely, if you look at Porter Ridge, it all starts with Grayson McCall, the quarterback number 10. we talk a lot about their running game, but he can throw the ball too. He's thrown for 1,281 yards this year, 12 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. Good numbers on that. And then you look at the running game. My goodness, they run this triple option, and they run it well. It's not the old school triple option that you think of with the fullback diving and then the other back coming around and straight down the line. This stuff is from gun with motion. One back, two backs. There's a lot of variations in it. They got Hines, that's rushed for 979. Coleman, who's rushed for 1,000. And then McCall himself, the quarterback's rushed for 807. So that's a true triple option. They're all easily over 7 yards a carry. Hines, as a matter of fact, is at 9 yards a carry. Hines has 10 touchdowns, Coleman 12, and McCall has 11. So you have got to really be on your P's and Q's when you're playing assignment football against these guys, because if you don't do your job, it can be lights out really quick. Receiving wise, they've had some injuries here. Their receiver that was committed to ECU hasn't been out the whole season, Austin Richardson. And then Leith has tried to step in, but he got hurt back earlier in the season, hadn't played since. So their receiving threats have really kind of gone down, and when you look at the stats, it's definitely a committee kind of thing. So they get into a passing situation, you know, they're depending on guys that aren't necessarily used to being in the spotlight. But the good thing for Porter Ridge is the defense can't really key on somebody, so you take what's there and you get it to them and let them go to work. Defensively, you look at Porter Ridge's numbers here. We're going to scroll down to them. They don't have someone necessarily as great as Hendricks with all those crazy stat numbers there, but they've got a couple guys that do well. Welch is a senior, has 70 tackles on the year. They've got another kid here, Kilgo, who's a senior with 53. And they got a couple other guys with 40. They do have a guy, and I like this kid a lot, Moran. He's a good D lineman. I remember getting a highlight with him last year in the Myers Park game. He's got 11 sacks on the year. So when Davie County's back to pass, you got to key in on Moran. Make sure you know where he is and account for him in pass protection for sure, because he can bring it. And you look at the rest of their stats here. Horse Camp. I remember early in the season, this kid was picking off a lot of balls. He's got 7 on the season and 12 passes defense.